Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. This is another episode of the Aziza Growth Series, where we feature experts, inspiring individuals to provide insights and strategies that are useful for business owners, industry leaders, policymakers, and supporters of the foundation. And today we have one of our own, one of the trustees of the board of directors, and we're going to be talking about the seeds of change, empowering young people and women to lead Africa's agricultural future. And so we have Dr. Olaoluwa Bamigboye in our midst, and he's going to be sharing juicy stuff, juicy topics, topics. Oh my days. Just sharing a lot of things with us, to be able to give us insight on how we can empower young people and women to lead Africa's agricultural future. So, Ms. Dr. Olaoluwa Bamigboye, could you please introduce yourself?
All right, thank you. So I'm happy to be here. Once again, like I've mentioned, I am Dr. Olaoluwa Bamigboye. I'm the CEO as an Heralds Agro-Allied Limited. We're in the production of livestock feed for poultry, for ruminants, for non-ruminants, and then any kind of livestock. Also, I am in the education space. I am an adjunct faculty. I disseminate information and knowledge in agricultural institutions or even non-agricultural institutions to share knowledge with people on how to probably get involved or probably how to make their businesses better. And it has been a good journey so far. So pretty much for now, I think that suffices.
Yeah, that's so good. And as you're speaking, and you spoke about how you're a CEO and you do, feed for ruminant and non-ruminant animals. And the truth is that agriculture in Nigeria is like is something that not a lot of people are interested in. Now I say not a lot of people, and I mean young people, not a lot of young people are interested. Do you think we can change the perception of agriculture as an industry, like for the older generation, and making farming more appealing to young people today?
All right, so thank you for that question. The reality is, as it stands, agriculture contributes a lot to the GDP of Nigeria as we speak, and the same thing goes to the fact that he actually is an highest, probably a very good, employer of labor in the country. So agriculture as it stands now is actually making waves. For the youth, we have the older generation participate more, invest more, but the percentage of youth in the space is actually, not encouraging. People are doing a lot. I can tell, but like you mentioned, is looking or seeming unattractive to the youth. So how do we make it attractive to them for us to be able to sustain or even grow beyond what we are contributing to the GDP now, or even employing more people, probably becoming employers of labor? Number one is the fact that you have to see people that are actually successful. You have to, seeing them to say, so I always make entertainment as my point of, call when I'm actually talking about this. Everybody, you probably can meet someone on the road right now. I'm a musician, I sing. Davido is their inspiration. A Whiskey is their inspiration. A Burna Boy. Everybody probably, I want to blow like Olamide. I want to. So those examples are there in the industry, and they're actually making waves. It's obvious. It's obvious to the blind. The blind can see, what they are doing. So I believe, people have to be inspirational. The people that actually upcoming, have to see the ones that are actually out there to say they are successful. That inspires me to want to do more. The other thing is automation. The reality is, agricultural activities. Growing up, people always perceive agriculture as a back-breaking activity. Drudgery, mechanical. You have to use, cutlasses to slash. You have to use hoe to make ridges. You have to bend down the whole thing. So now we have to go to automation and mechanization. Beyond drudgery, beyond working in the sun. It's the same thing. With the same way we cultivate food in Africa, it's the same way food is cultivated, in Europe, in Asia, in America. Other part of the world. So they have automated their operation. They are mechanized. So they are more mechanized. They are more automated. That way it makes it modernized. I always say that there's no family that on career day that dresses their children like a farmer. Because nobody wants to have a child or his child look like a poor or son of a poor man going to school on a career day. Everybody dressed like a doctor, like a nurse, pretty much. So we have to make it attractive for them. Make it beyond drudgery. We have to make it modernized, automated. And the last one, talking about cluster cooperative, people can't work in silos. Cost of infrastructure as we stand in Nigeria is actually on the high side. Talking about electricity, cost of constructing borehole, different things is on the high side. So if you come together as maybe 5 ladies or 5 men, you can actually come together to cultivate. That makes you your resources together to probably sink a borehole. Your sunk cost is actually minimized. And it's divided rather than you bearing the whole cost, because tapping electricity, having a backup, generator, diesel, all those costs a lot not on you. So if you come together in clusters or cooperative, it reduces the burden on you, and then availability of infrastructure, it makes it interesting and attractive for for the younger generation and for women.
Yes, that's so profound. Thank you so much, Dr. Olaoluwa, for sharing those. Because I feel like the first part you mentioned of how entertainment is, and I know some young people can relate to this drug lord is called Pablo Escobar, and a lot of young people would say they want to be like Pablo Escobar. And the truth is that Pablo Escobar, in his when he was in his in his own community, he was building hospitals, schools, but he was using drug money, and the drug he was trafficking was going to the US and destroying people's lives, literally. But because what people could see was the wealth, the power, and all of those kind of things, till today, Pablo Escobar still has a positive PR, right? And so if more people who are in agriculture are speaking up about what they're earning, what they're doing, there's in a sense there's a picture to be able to see. Because I remember like how as growing up, people will come and talk. I work in management consulting, and you see how they look. I want to be a management consultant. Oh, I want to work in KPMG. I want to work in PwC, because you're like, oh, these people, whatever they have, I want to have it, right? And so the same goes for agriculture as well. Like to have more people who are successful, do an intentional drive to being able to inspire other young people to it as well. And of course, mechanization, automation, and the building of infrastructure and the clustering system. And the truth is that it's easy to say all of this, but the government definitely has a role to play. But beyond that is the fact that the clustering system, in a sense, removes that burden of having to wait for the government to be able to say, okay, at least what can we start? If we're able to bring ourselves together and get something done. And yeah, that's amazing. Correct. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think the next question I wanted to ask is, there's also a bit of shift to technology, right? And a lot of young people are now beginning to fix or essentially focus on agriculture and technology, right? So how do you think we can connect innovation to actual production on the ground? Because it seems to me like most people are interested in the tech part of things, but not really interested in the groundwork of the production, even though it's back-breaking, that's what they say, but the automation and mechanization still has a bit of human input in it. So there's still a bit of working, working in the farm, right? So how do you think we can connect the innovation and the production on ground? How do you think they can connect that?
All right, thank you. So I think number one is the fact that I always say that technology is an enabler. Technology enables, it enhances an operation. So there has to be an operation, like you said. Like I mentioned earlier, these activities are, some are, they are archaic, they are probably, old, it could be backbreaking. When we now use technology to probably, automate these operations, it makes it, relatively more attractive. So rather than everybody, so a tech, function could be, maybe automation, digitization, traceability, when you're adding value to what farmers are producing. But now going to core production, we can talk about irrigation, we can talk about sensing, using sensor probably to know when to apply fertilizers or, herbicides or inputs to plants. So that helps, bottom of, production to say, before you get to the marketplace where you probably have, an app to connect, a digital, a buyer and then the real farmer. Before that, you can now come to irrigation. Irrigation says that, you can actually water your plant where the plant needs that actual water. You don't have to just, do flood irrigation or something. You can do drip irrigation that applies water directly to the base of the plant. That helps you to, maximize or optimize your yield. Rather than having, let's say, 5 tons per hectare, you can probably have 10 tons, 15 tons, 20 tons, and that helps you to farm all year round. So irrigation is something that can help. So also sensing. In some cases, you go to some rice farms where you need to make some scarecrows. Some people actually, have some a form of technology that senses birds and then it begins to ring a bell. That sensor senses, animals or human being movement that is irregular. And then it probably beeps or trigger alarms, all those stuff. Those are parts or ways that we can actually automate production rather than just say we are doing marketplaces, we are connecting vendors to buyer and everything. Now going to processing as well. Like I mentioned, all these activities are actually backbreaking. You can automate processing to say, rather than using a mechanical hammer mill that you have to probably introduce feed ingredients into, you can actually get automated processing line. You just go to a dashboard, you just turn on the equipment from there and then introduce the grains, and then before you know, it comes out of the hen line after bagging and everything is thoroughly mixed. So it makes it more production inclined rather than just I want to build tech, a fintech or an hard tech, connecting buyer and seller, visibility. Before you get there, you actually need something to produce, before you actually get to, that other end of the value chain.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because what I'm hearing now is like to be able to sit down to think about what the actual production is and seeing ways that we can now build innovation in that process. So as opposed to going, yeah, go ahead, please. You're going to say.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, thank you for pointing that out. Is to say that I mean, a lot of techpreneurs or tech guys, they design solution without the farmer in mind. They think but going to the farmer to say, what is your problem? What challenges are you encountering while planting? So when I understand that you plant and then probably any rodent comes to uproot your seed, and then you can't even see any germination or any shoot out or anything. That way the tech person can know how to solve your problem. So some or many solution providers don't have the farmer in mind. So in that way, there's a disconnect between the product and then the problem.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. And so for women, and I think especially women, there's been barriers to accessing land, finance, and training in agriculture, right? And to be honest, these particular things can be very what I'm trying to find is it actually inhibits the growth women are capable of being able to do in agriculture. So like, what do you think, or how can we overcome these obstacles? And what are these barriers first? Like, what do you think is the barrier for women in accessing land, finance, and training? And how can we overcome these obstacles?
All right, so I think I'll just mention the challenges. Like you mentioned, women barrier. I've listed here access to capital, access to credit, capital, and then capital is probably the finance to start with. Credit as loan, because they are women, they don't have collateral to be able to back up, their asks and everything.
Yeah.
Cultural barriers as well. There are some activities in agriculture that we have termed, gender specific. You say women process, women harvest, women winnow, women this and women that. So there are some activities that are probably tied to them, and they in their mind as well, they don't go beyond that. They don't want to probably explore. And then the last one is access to land, because land is fragmented. They can't, in some culture, women don't inherit land. In that when they want to plant, they can't even plant. They have to probably go through their husbands or go through their uncles, probably, and it could be a barrier to say, okay, I'm not giving you land. Women don't have access to land, and the conversation ends there. So we have to now, for us to be able to solve this problem, there has to be a mindset shift. We have to shift our mindset from, gender specific roles in agriculture to say what a man can do, a woman can do better. Do you understand? We have to go beyond, because I always boast in the fact that women are better managers. Women, when they have resources, they actually do more. Go to any poultry farm that probably have a woman leading. You actually have outcomes, better than a man, leading that poultry farm. You can make your findings. So women are better managers. When these assets and when these barriers are actually taking off these women, they can actually deliver quality and quantifiable, results. So as much as possible, mindset shift is a thing that we need to probably, and then education, like we do in TADF, literacy, financial literacy. So my PhD was in financial inclusion and productivity of female small farmers in Ogun State. And I realized, based on my findings and my personal outcomes, data backed now, women that have access to capital did more than the ones that didn't have access to capital. Women that are in cooperative, are in clusters, they did more, which is what we are promoting in TADF to say that, let's bring it together, let's educate you. The money you have, under your bed, under your mattress is actually doing you no favor. If you probably, run your cash through your account, they can see your traction. Even before you can get, higher, credit. That cash flow can actually give you credit from anybody, family and friends, even the bank. So literacy is actually a thing that we need to actually, do to be able to break mindset, barriers and the cultural barriers actually existing, for the roles that are actually gender and non-gender specific. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think our next question will be question around mentorship, because when you're speaking about women, there's also that in a sense guidance of, you can do this with this, you can, so how how important is mentorship, in encouraging youth and women to take up roles in agriculture, agribusiness, and what models you think would prove most effective for this demography?
All right, thank you. So, like you said, mentorship is very, very, very important. Tell me that, right? I respond to your question, because you need to know that, if she can do it, I can do it. You have to watch them, so no man is an island, you think things, we perceive differently. We see things differently based on our experience, exposure, knowledge, and background, So when you now come someone that is similarly successful more than you are exposed to their realities.
Absolutely.
To see daily models, the challenges they are encountering. That way, they always say experience is the best teacher, but it shouldn't come from could be costly. It could be costly, when you see someone that is successful, still falling into challenges, you know that, you have to probably, tight your hand more, because if she, with her resources, if he at this level is doing well and is still encountering, these challenges, you that are at this level should be able to do more when it comes to anything, record keeping. So there has to be a way of guidance and holding. Mentorship does that for you. Rather than you falling into a pit, someone has fallen into it before, someone says, when you get to this point, don't do this. If you want to actually make more money, plant this season, plant this variety, do this. And so mentorship is key. So there are some platforms, so by my organization as well, we have, Farm to Fortune Connect, where people can actually go, learn. I know some other ones. There's I've forgotten the name right now, but Lucy Agro-Demi, she's a lady. She's doing well in this space. She does education for women in agriculture or for youth. So Agro-Demi, Farm to Fortune Connect. There are a lot of them that you can go on. You can ask, to pay for learnings. You can do some that will connect you actually for free. So Farm to Fortune Connect, youth, women to mentors for free. And then TADF as well. We have a lot of successful people that can actually hold you to help you be successful in your space.
Thank you so much. If anybody was interested in Farm to Fortune, how can they find that? Is it on Google, YouTube, Instagram, or how can they? Because Farm to Fortune, how can they get access to that?
All right, so Farm to Fortune Connect. You can find it on TikTok. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on just type it online. It will pop up. Farm to Fortune. It will to the database, and then you can click and then you follow the link, the guide, the link.
So just again, the spelling is farm, FARM, and is it number 2 or letter TO?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Farm to Fortune Connect. So anyone listening to this, okay, and you're interested in being able to be connected to a mentor who has already walked the path ahead of you, because as Dr. Olaoluwa mentioned, experience is the best teacher, but you don't necessarily have to be your experience, right? So you can leverage on people's experience, people's story to be able to learn and be able to leverage on that to get into the agricultural space. So thank you so much for sharing that. And when you get to Farm to Fortune Connect, you can always say you're from TADF and we got that link. And of course, I'm sure Dr. Olaoluwa and his team will be happy to help. Thank you so much, Dr. Olaoluwa. And I think the final question as we round off is what roles do you think government and private sector can play, in building this inclusive agricultural value chain that empower women and youth equally? Because in this conversation, we've spoken about how women themselves also have the barrier of this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm going to do this. But if there's already a mentorship like Farm to Fortune Connect, where people are able to see the possibility that what things that are possible, right? They're able to go beyond what they are currently at. But then also, there's also now the challenge of, and I say, speak of Farm to Fortune again, is how private sector is now helping out, you know what I mean? To be able to, in a sense, make opportunities accessible. So, but what role can governments and, private sector players like yourself do in building inclusive environments or inclusive environments for women and youth?
All right, so thank you very much for that intelligent question. So for government, I would like to say number 1, policy, number 2, policy consistency. So when there's a policy right now to say on a farm, you have to actually probably empower or hire, 30% or 40%, or as the case may be, women and youth. That way, as a matter of compulsion, you actually have to as a function of policy. Do you understand? So policy is number 1, and then policy consistency, because it takes a while before policy materializes. So it shouldn't be period, we said this and then next 2 years or 4 years we are changing that, so policy number 1, policy consistency, because in Nigeria we have a challenge of policy somersault, inconsistency of policy. Someone says this today, someone comes tomorrow to say that, which is actually not helping the agricultural industry as the case may be in other industry as well. Now talking about incentivizing this support, so say that if you are a lady and you are doing agriculture, just like this present administration is doing, to say that they are giving task holiday for anybody in agriculture, that should motivate young people to say, okay, now I want to go and do agriculture because I have tax holiday for 5 years. So tax holiday, which is an incentive for youth, women, anybody playing the field, this incentivizing could actually work, for younger ones, to enhance inclusion. And then so now for PPP, for private partners now. I call it public-private partnership, in the sense that when government come in power, in some cases 4 years, 8 years, they are housed, and then you need something to probably be as long as 50 years, 100 years to be sustainable. They need to should be able to synergize with individuals or private organizations to say that we are doing this. Come and take it up from here. Let's support 50-50 equity. We do this. You pay back the government. So it increases the lifespan beyond administration of the government. So that PPP that, let's put up, special agro-processing zones or clusters. Let's begin with our money. So you can just walk in to say, okay, I have this knowledge, I have this idea, I want to be able to meal feed, I want to be able to plant, I want to be able to process, I want to be able to, that way, come as you are, as an infrastructure, to say you can cultivate, with a common infrastructure, there's power, there's good road, there's electricity, there's logistics. Those are the bottlenecks in agriculture that they've taken off 70% of it. So the next one you're probably looking for is the manpower, key man risk, and then, your availability, your knowledge, and then you'll be able to empower, hire more people that way. So I think, these are the things I can say for now, top of my head.
Thank you so much. Like, this is such an insightful session. Like, if you are not on Aziza Growth Series, I'm like, where are you? Like, what are you doing? So much. Thank you so much, Dr. Olaoluwa. It was such a beautiful time, learning from your wealth of experience, because it's obvious that you are right on the field. Some of these insights you're giving us are not just like out of the books. This, I read this, I read that. Is true life and experience, and so we're so grateful for that wealth of knowledge. And so this is to everyone who currently is considering agriculture, and I hope that in this conversation you've picked one or two things to be able to add, to be able to say, okay, this particular thing, now you heard about the tax holiday, so why not? You can begin to plan, you can begin to strategize and say, how can I get into this place? And of course, Farm to Fortune might be a good place for you to start. Farm to Fortune Connect might be a good place for you to start. Thank you so much, Dr. Olaoluwa. It was such a wonderful time. And to meet you again, my dear listeners, next time, next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.